What's up, everybody? I'm Ethan Giffen, your host of E-commerce Masters and CEO of Groove Commerce, and I'm excited to be here today with the amazing Gina Potenza, who is the CDP and Data Solutions Manager at Klaviyo, one of our favorite platforms to talk about. We're going to be doing a deep dive into Klaviyo's CDP product and learning all the ins and outs with all the great information that you want to hear. I will start out and say that this is a video first podcast. So if you're listening on an audio only device, head on over to our YouTube channel at Groove Commerce and be sure to give us a like, a follow, or subscribe. And so you can check out all the visuals that go along with it. Welcome to the show, Gina. How are you?
I'm thriving. You were just telling me about the weather in Baltimore, and I'm in Boston. So, really, I'm jealous it's in the 30s, but I'm great. Cold and great.
It is so, Baltimore is so funny. It's 70 one day and then it gets down to the 30s. But I think winter is here already, like very early this
Yeah.
year for some reason. And I'm not for it. I don't know why I didn't start a company in Florida. That's what I should have done. It was
Yeah. I
crazy
hear
to
there's great incorporation. Better than what are you going to do? Like Wyoming? You'd hate it there.
somewhere where it's warm.
Yeah.
Somewhere where it's warm. Well, I'm excited to have you on the podcast today. I'm excited to talk about the CDP. A lot of people, when I say CDP, they're like, what the hell is that? But we can get into all the ins and outs. But first, I want to start with, tell us a little bit about how you got into commerce. How did you make your way over to Klaviyo and get into CDP world?
Yeah, so my entry, to be fair, I've been in MarTech. 2025 will be my decade, which is alarming. But so I have been in the MarTech, or really Boston tech scene, since 2015 and have made my way through kind of being in direct sales, working more so on the ESP and CRM side, to then actually being in consulting on go-to-market pricing, and then found myself in working at a CDP at a enterprise level, really focused actually on direct to consumer businesses. So those were both, what you think of maybe not traditionally when we're talking to e-commerce folks, but like publishers, right, are really consumers are their end clients. So working with a lot of publishers, and then the company really expanded, and I was part of the team that figured out, hey, what does this go to market look like for other direct to consumer uh, retailers and CPGs. And then Klaviyo knocked on my door, and I love CDP. I went and got my MBA while I was at my previous role, really focused on like, hey, I love this market, and I think there's so many interesting changes. And we can talk about what a nerd that makes me. That I'm excited about this kind of market that's constantly changing and full of buzzwords and full of acronyms. But hopefully, we can help you all make sense of the soup.
That's awesome. I mean, I love it. I mean, I got my start in the staffing industry for a worldwide global staffing company, and we had databases full of millions and millions of applicants and people that we had interacted with during the employment process. And, in my mind, I was like, why can't we do things like magazine people and direct mail people do and keep track of these people as they move around and create this basically data warehouse of information about them. It was way too advanced for the early 2000s to get into. I probably would be a billionaire if I would have created that for the staffing industry. But I always loved the concept of taking customer data and kind of breaking that down. So why don't you kind of, everybody knows, like almost everybody in commerce, like every merchant has heard of Klaviyo at this point, right? But like, tell us just a little bit more about what this CDP thing is and how it fits within Klaviyo.
I warned you this would happen. I've got a visual that'll make it a little easier
I
to
love
follow, and
visuals.
it's perfect. Same. You don't need me to paint a picture with my words. I've got a visual for you. Um, I think that, to be honest, the way that a lot of folks know Klaviyo is to some extent the Klaviyo of like 2017 to 2018, where we were the best in class email provider. And like that is, I won't say it's a bad word, but we do a whole heck of a lot more, because what we actually started as is, to your point, and I think a lot of folks miss this, that no matter what you're doing, whether it's tech or staffing or publishing a newspaper, everyone's a human at the end of the day. Like it's humans who spend money, and what we were originally built as is actually a data platform. The catch being that no one in 2012 in e-commerce was buying a data platform, but really we
Right.
scaled up from that. And that's the way to think of Klaviyo now, and a big shift that we're making, and candidly, how we talk to the market is much more acknowledging the fact that customer first data is the foundation of Klaviyo and everything that you do with it, where that underlying, right, that layer of this, I guess it's not a pyramid, the square, is that data infrastructure because it's where your customer first data lives. And then the way to think about Klaviyo is the place where you're able to get value to build relationships with those consumers and those humans who fundamentally are your customers. Whether that looks at analysis, at understanding who these folks are and how you can speak to them at a very personalized level, or actually doing that speaking across a variety of messaging channels. All of that, the way that you're building relationships and the way you're looking at your growth is really happening within Klaviyo.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's just a fantastic way of looking at just the entire life cycle of a customer. That's what intrigues me with this, right? I still get many emails from brands who, maybe I've never bought a product for a woman through that brand, but it's all been men's products. Like, why do I still receive offers that feature, those type, like, that may be more focused towards women? Maybe at certain times of year that might be okay for, for certain things, Mother's Day, etc. But like why not focus on what I'm buying from if I'm only buying men's jeans from you? Like, I don't need to, it's not going to be helpful. I'm going to delete the things and not engage with the emails that focus on other parts of that. So that concept really kind of layers into this, right?
Yeah, and I think that's candidly the hard part is that marketers like are being asked to keep up with consumer sentiments that are changing. That in 2015, if you told me that third-party cookie deprecation was actually going to be executed really differently by Google than what everyone thought, you're like, why would Google have cookies, right? What does that mean? Baked goods. That's not what they're specialized in. And granted, the average consumer doesn't know about that, but they certainly have experienced. My favorite example is that you just bought a mattress and you're still having mattresses follow you around the internet. That's not the expectation that we have anymore for brands. But now we've tasked marketers to become big data experts about how do you execute at scale as consumer expectations with those brands are changing. As all the data comes out from Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend, I won't be surprised if the trend continues that as we saw last year, that a lot of it is loyalty, a lot of it is repeat purchases. Consumers build loyalty, build affinity with their brand, and a direct to consumer brand doesn't have a sales team. That's all in the marketer. They don't necessarily have a data team in order to build those deep segments to know that, hey, who are my male clothing purchasers in the mid-Atlantic, whether weather is turning into a cold snap, how do I personalize to that? Again, like that's all on marketers. So a lot of empathy for the folks who watch this podcast. It's hard out there.
It's hard. It's hard. So I really want to just make sure that we're kind of clarifying, like, so we have people that are very advanced that listen and people that are kind of newer. And so just, I want to make sure that we're clarifying, right? So, many brands and merchants have started out using Klaviyo for their email, right? We've got many folks that are transitioning to Klaviyo on top of that for their SMS and MMS, right? For that channel. And now this is a kind of more advanced option, so to speak, for brands and marketers, like within Klaviyo, to get more data-driven insights. Am I
Yeah,
kind of describing it the right way?
advanced makes it sound scary and hard. Our whole thing is that what we want is a real democratization of the access to that data and how deep you can get in your analysis, in your strategic targeting. It's the next step. But having said that, some of these things actually make your life easier and save you steps in terms of segmentation. So it allows you to be smarter. It allows you to work smarter, not harder, is really the goal around it. It's that next step towards building more personalized communications using the data that you already have that's already yours, which is what's so key.
Yeah, yeah. It's been intriguing to see our customers like move into the CDP, right, and the things that are available there. from a data standpoint and a knowledge standpoint, getting it up and running, like extra segmentation that's available, and kind of all of that information that's at your fingertips. One of the things that like that when I was on the client side before starting an agency, I kind of talk about my time in staffing. I remember we did a whole project to build this data warehouse, and I forget what we spent on it. It may have been five or $600,000, may have even been $1 million by the time it was all said and done. And like there was like we got absolutely nothing out of it. Like it was like so basic, and you needed to the end user didn't have the ability to run queries or anything like that. And so, I just, that was kind of my opinion of some of these systems, that they were large, kind of slow moving, extremely expensive to implement, very, very time consuming, 12, 14 months to implement within an enterprise. And then kind of what you get out of it is kind of passed you by the time you get to it. So when the CDP for Klaviyo was announced, and it's probably been about a year and a half, maybe like a year. Like
Mhm.
I have to kind of think about the time frame, but I've been very excited about that kind of advancement, because I just think that it puts more at your fingertips. It's not maybe as advanced as one of those big enterprise, $1 million tools, but quite frankly, I feel like sometimes marketers like need less than more, right? Sometimes you have too much functionality or too many options. It's like better, like this is more simplified, and something that an advanced marketer, an average marketer that wants to go further and put some time in to learn and understand can really utilize within their campaigns and segments and flows.
You're hitting the nail on the head, candidly, of the experience. And for those who don't know, CDPs are customer data platforms, which doesn't tell you much in terms of what the software actually does, but it's what Ethan is getting at. Fundamentally, it's about being able to unify your data in one place, right? That idea of knowing who's buying those men's jeans and then being able to send that data somewhere to activate against it. That's unify and activate. That's what CDPs are all about. But to Ethan's point, they can get really complicated. They can get very difficult to implement and to actually then maintain. Because if you imagine getting all that data in one place to unify, that is a lot of technical pipelines. You're really relying on technical teams to execute that. So we looked at that and looked at the fact that, yeah, but marketers are the ones who want to use this. So I think that, Ethan, I'll call you out maybe on falling into a little bit of a paradigm trap that we think of like if it's advanced, it's got to be really complicated and really expensive. If it's simple to use, then it's not advanced and it's cheap, right? And I think that like that's a false paradigm. It's a lot harder to build something that's advanced and simple to use. I candidly took the job at Klaviyo, coming from CDP land because I saw it and was like, holy cow, they're doing it. They're building it for the marketers. I want in on this. I want in on this speedboat. Because I think it's such a powerful unlock for marketers who are being asked to do so much to actually give them the keys to the Ferrari. Maybe that has like automatic drive in it. This is a terrible metaphor, but someone will follow it.
Well, I liken it to sending, a email with a banner in it, like for the Boston Red Sox, when you've only ever bought Yankees gear, right? Like, I mean, you think about that, right? Like, those are real opportunities to create loyalty, to create stickiness, to really just sell more stuff, right? And so I'm a big Baltimore Orioles fan, and like I hate it when I get like more Yankees bullshit. Pardon my French, but you're from Boston, so you probably think Yankees are bullshit too. But that's another conversation.
Deeply agnostic. I'm sorry. I car metaphors, sports metaphors, don't, I'm bad at all of them.
That's great. That's great. So what else? Like if so, for let's say you're on Klaviyo, you're using SMS. Your account manager might be starting to talk about, hey, have you thought about CDP? What should brands and merchants be thinking about? Like, what's the right size brand or merchant for this product?
My answer is annoying in that it's not a size thing. What it is actually much more of a behavioral aspect to who you are to some extent as a brand and who you are as a marketing team and a leadership team. Because to the example of Yankees gear for a Red Sox fan, are you also thinking about, well, what does my customer journey look like in SMS, in email, on site? What about the display ads that I'm spending all this money on? What about my direct mail? How do I make sure that all of that messaging is consistent? Are you thinking about those things? Do you have that level of complexity? And you don't necessarily need to be across all of those channels, but you need to be thinking about that consumer journey. Candidly, like if you are crushing your numbers, sending 10 emails a month, or you're with like if you are hitting your growth goals and you do not need to push the boundary, I'd probably say, hey, are you actually, do you want to put in the work? Do you need to? If you're killing it and you're not trying to advance to that next level. But if you have room to push that envelope, if you think that you have growth goals that you need to hit that are not going to get hit, doing what you are currently doing, that's the opportunity, right? We think about this like CDP again with Klaviyo is not $1 million endeavor. It's not for Fortune 50 companies. We're really trying to bring it across all of our customers, and we're seeing adoption with very small businesses, again, because a lot of this is work smarter, not harder. How do we actually automate things? How do we bring that complexity down to a level
Right.
where you're not executing it? So it was a long-winded
Right.
answer, but it's do you have growth goals to hit that you're not going to hit if you don't start doing something different?
You probably should be focused as long as you have product to sell, you should be trying to grow your store, right? Like I just have to say there's no reason to hold back from growth unless your warehouse can't take anymore or you're running out of product, right? There's very few instances where I feel like you should ever slow your momentum because it's very hard to get that momentum going again. I know that from our point of view, we have built a kind of a formalized Klaviyo CDP Jumpstart program, and we're able to get people up and running on this in about 4 to 6 weeks with a ton of advanced flows, advanced segments, and all the things that it takes to kind of help brands and merchants like move forward with that. And I know that that's been extremely helpful for them. Do you would it make sense for you to show folks what the CDP looks like and kind of take a little tour through
Show
this?
and tell. I'd
Let's
love
do it.
nothing more. I'd love to. We're not going to do a full demo. What I will say is that Spencer and his team are masters. Like, please reach out to them and they will be able to tell you all about the goodness. Like, you do not need to listen to a 40-minute Gina show of me demoing this to you, especially because a lot of this is to the point of actually being tailored to, hey, what are your specific growth goals and
Yeah.
what use cases make sense? But we can do a little bit of a tour. It's in, for those of you who use Klaviyo. It's right within the Klaviyo interface. We built it, so it looks the same.
Okay.
You know, it's right here, and it's made up of two component parts. The intelligence suite is when we think about those analytics, the deeper segmentation that lives here, and then data management is what it says on the tin. It's about, hey, when you have those higher complexity needs around more data that's flowing in, how do we make sure that we're giving you the tool set to do more with that data in terms of really managing it. Uh, what I will say, and this is part of that quick start program that I think that the Groove team does an amazing job at, is really leveraging RFM. So when we're talking about advanced strategies, things that are automated, things that save you time and allow you to get a lot deeper, RFM analysis is one of those because your data is within Klaviyo, or if you are just getting started on Klaviyo, you're bringing over all that historical data. Our models have something to be trained on because you
Yeah.
already have that data living in Klaviyo. And what it does is gives a score of 1 to 3 on the recency, the frequency, and the monetary value of the transactions that Ethan or Gina have had with you, and being able to bucket Ethan and Gina, are they champions or are they actually at risk or inactive? And
Right.
what we're able to do, because this model is running nightly, is actually show you it on a cadence that is what's happening when your loyals, how many of your loyals are moving to needs attention, and being able to think about those advanced flows and segmentations in terms of, hey, what are you doing to retain these folks? What are you doing to make sure that your loyals become champions, right? These are customers who are on the right track to be your best customers. How do we make sure they stay those? And how are we actually targeting different types of messaging to the different behavior patterns, particularly when you layer it with the richness of the data within our segmentation of, okay, who are your needs attention jeans buyers, and making sure you're targeting them with complementary products, not with women's dresses, particularly for maybe they're the ones that you give an incentive to draw them back. So being able to get that depth. And we have an action center, right, that's actually looking at your data
Mhm.
and giving you suggestions of what are other opportunities and other use cases you could deploy. So I know that there's other ideas here, Ethan. I'm happy for you to chime in on what you've seen work with your customers as well.
Yeah. I mean, I actually want to slow it down here for a second and just touch on RFM, right? I want to make sure that we're not moving too fast through some of these concepts, but recency, frequency, monetary, right? That is three ways to basically stat rank your customers, for lack of a better term, to based around recency of their order, the frequency of their orders, and the total values of their orders. Do I have that correct in your
Yep,
from your point of view? And so
exactly.
all of those things, if you have somebody that is lacks recency but is high monetary, you can handle them differently. If you have people that has a frequency of ordering, maybe they're ordering consumable products from you, maybe they're ordering like much more frequently. It's like, well, why is that? Um, you know, we we were talking with a client of ours recently, where it's like it's kind of a one and done product, and so it's like, well, if someone orders this product often, are they from the industry, from your industry, and is generally, working, making, recommending this to their end customer, so to speak, right? And so, how are you going to engage based upon those three things and get more customers from that? And that's kind of the devil in the details that most people don't pay attention to. How do you take your high value customers, your high monetary customers, and just actively engage them even more and maybe treat them differently than you would somebody that hasn't ordered, in 180 days or more?
Yeah, absolutely. Including, loyalty programs are hard to stand up and expensive, right? They're incredibly powerful tools, but you can also start doing things like fudging a loyalty program in terms of how you speak to your champions and loyals when you're including them in segmentation or, in a more advanced perspective of actually doing different emails to them, actually tailoring that language and making a customer feel seen for their loyalty, whether you have a loyalty provider and a whole program and a tier and a system in place, right? We can simplify that to the fact that, again, you're connecting with a human in a way that honors and shows that you know what their relationship with your brand is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's brands that I regularly buy from multiple times a year, and I'm just surprised at the lack of communication that I get from them, whether that be, someone checking in, even, or, it could be additional like VIP programs. It's surprising at times where people do not take advantage. People just create a loyalty program at times and kind of set it and forget it, and let just people kind of run through it. But I looked at a customer's Klaviyo recently, and we pulled down like what it created some questions where it was like, who are the top customers from a monetary standpoint? And they were taking it back that 100,000, 75,000, like real money. Like, and I'm like, you should be buying some of these people's Super Bowl tickets, like just based upon, like, if you were buying that from a enterprise sales, software rep, they'd be taking you to concerts, in terms of to
Right.
get that kind of revenue out of them. So why don't you think more three dimensionally with what you're trying to do here, with your customer database? Like, even if it's just a handful, and if it's only a handful, like, why not just like figure out how to treat them like kings and queens, within that. But a lot of people are just not aware of how that ranks up within. They're not aware of who their real top customers are. Most business owners have a perceived perception of who they think their top customers on, but many of them, especially in ecom, like don't know or don't look at that frequently.
Yeah. And I have a lot, again, it comes from a place of a lot of empathy for marketers who are asked to pull that data and then asked to build these psychographic personas, right? Of like, who's your, I don't know, Molly the mom and how does she shop? Which is very different than actually being able to say that, hey, here are our top 300 customers. Here's their behavior. Here's who they are specifically. And let's do a campaign, not at this behavioral theoretical level, but who are these people? A lot of it is just that marketers, again, don't have access to that data at their fingertips without doing a lot of digging. And that goes back to part of what we're trying to solve with this CDP is almost it's lower the barrier to entry to being able to have those relationships with your consumers.
I want to, one of the thoughts that I had is like a lot of our conversations so far has just been like, this is cool, like this is like neat to have. But like realistically, what kind of problem does this solve for a brand, and why do they need this?
The big question. The problem it solves is growth. Everyone needs it. No, but seriously, a lot of it is it's not about the top line business objective. I think those are really important to know in terms of, hey, we're really focused on improving our lifetime value because the cost of acquiring customers has really gone up, which means that next step down of thinking about, okay, so actually we need to understand how do we convert one-time buyers to repeat buyers? How do we increase LTV of our recurring customers? How do we increase basket sizes? And how do we increase retention? Those are all the tick, tick, tick tactical of we can help you solve this. But again, it comes back to that top line of do you have growth challenges? Do you have broad sweeping growth goals? It can even be things like I was speaking to a merchant who was really working through like this year has been the year of them focusing on inventory turns. They've been really focused on how do we think
Hmm.
about our inventory from a profitability perspective and how do we increase turns of our most profitable inventory to drive growth, right? That's the top line goal is still grow, but they're taking this very different approach. And so we were then having a very strategic conversation about how do they use the data that they have in Klaviyo and the CDP to be able to figure out how do they message that, right? To your point, just sending a blast of women's skirts are really profitable for us, so everyone buy a women's skirt isn't going to work. It's about, hey, how do we increase those turns on skirts by targeting the right people with those messages?
Right, right, right. Any other kind of use cases that you want to demo or show today?
I directly related to the skirts are catalog insights, and this is a lot of the time the where we actually spent with that merchant was figuring out what the buying behavior was of their customers because what we're able to see across a variety of time periods is at a product level. What is repeat purchase timing? So, from the time that someone bought a black rain jacket or when they came back and bought something else, so
Right.
think about things like all of your, this is a good example where the conventional wisdom of repeat buying flow might be a 30, 60, 90 flow. And you're targeting folks way too late, right? Thinking of that or doing an upsell flow, we can see the products that are bought in the same cart. So thinking about increasing those average order values, those basket sizes by actually doing bundles or promoting, that next an offer like an ad for 10% discount of this specific product and products bought in next order. So knowing that, hey, you bought a black rain jacket, we really want to show you in the post-purchase flow, right? Or in the upsell flow, that black vest to really drive you back to that loyalty to make the next purchase at the product that you are most likely to buy. And this is a good example of like this data exists in other places, right? We're not uncovering like deep life mysteries here. What we're doing is really surfacing it in an actionable, accessible way
Right.
so that marketers don't have to spend the time digging and instead can start thinking about, like, oh man, do I need a cold weather bundle, a cold, rainy weather bundle that I can do targeting based on of this black vest and this black rain jacket? Like, what strategies can I drive from that?
I really love this concept of kind of the next item, right, in the catalog view. It's like I think that that's really an interesting place again, for people that are really kind of climbing the steps in terms of their brand, and often people do recommend the wrong, what people like, something that people aren't actually buying. But when you start to kind of lean into what they are buying, you remove friction, and can you discount that product, like as you mentioned, 10% to get more of those in a cart. Maybe, as you mentioned, shouldn't be waiting 30 days to follow up with this item, right? Maybe strike while the iron's hot. All of these things should be tested and fine tuned as you start to see the analytics come in from that activity.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of it is, I think that a lot of the time marketers are relying on common sense, right? And what is intuitive in terms of, I was working with a like ready to wear women's brand that was just launching more so like everyday clothes, not gowns. And they were, when you bought a skirt, they showed you three more skirts. And actually, when they went in and looked at this, what they found was that their shopper was buying outfits. They were
Right.
the most often purchased in the same cart and in the next order when you bought the black skirt. It was actually three different sweaters, which is a really important one merchandising decision. But again, like that's not necessarily the common sense, but it's a really important way of understanding your buyer and how they're shopping.
That's a huge pet peeve of mine, just even beyond CDP, right? Like, I'm a guy, so maybe I'm more simple. But if you know me, I love clothes, lots of clothes. You should see my closet. But what really drives me nuts sometimes is when people don't show all the parts of the outfit. I actually think brands, there's often sometimes outfits that I like, and the shoes, like who makes those shoes? I'm like, you should like link to those shoes on wherever you got them from, because I want to get the whole thing, right? Don't hold it back from me. Give it all to me. But it's like, how do I get going? Like, what's the first piece of clothing? What's the second? What's the third? All of those things. I think they create very, very smart, very, very smart flows, right? And I do think that there are buying personas that are more perceptive on those types of things and will actually appreciate, those types of recommendations.
Yeah.
What's kind of next? Like, what's like, let's say, what's next for the CDP? Where are you going next? Like, where, if you're, is there any other tips or tricks that you wanted to show off today?
Yeah, I mean, those are two very different questions in terms of
They are.
what's next. In terms of what's next, and I think the reality is we're very heavily investing into our CDP and our analytics functionality. It is, we have seen, we've proved product market fit. Folks are hungry for it, so we're really heavily investing, and we're moving into things like more advanced identity resolution and being able to really get a deeper sense of, hey, Gina, who was I have probably a nightmare for everyone who when they hear this, but I sign up for marketing emails on one email and I purchase on a different email. But it's still really important to know that I'm Gina, right? And whether that's based on a shared phone number or a shared shipping address, right? If I happen to order off of my marketing one, because who actually can keep that straight? It's actually above
Right.
me, which is what makes me a nightmare. But being able to start getting more nuance and actually starting to explore that more as a marketer rather than knowing that, hey, this is the same email address or the same phone number, so we're going to link, right? It's actually being able to bring more nuance to that, more analytics functionality. You're going to be able to see more and more in terms of that orchestration and actually being able to start doing things like custom data objects. So that sounds intimidating. It's actually less intimidating than it is. It's the concept that like it's not about being able to have a field that says Gina has a pet, right? True or false, right? A profile property says pet, dog, but actually it's about being able to have a whole group of objects that says pets, and then you have dog, and then you have breed, size,
Hmm.
harness preference, or leash length. We're building that. And so it's a lot of, again, building that richness and ability to get more out of your data. Um, in terms of advanced use cases, I'm actually a menace and can go on forever. But I think the really key one is when we think about the consumer journey and how it is evolving, it's again that multi-channel consistency where I am engaging with you, whether it's on an Instagram ad, it's a billboard. Do people do billboards anymore? I see those. But
Billboards are
email,
still
SMS.
great.
Yeah. I remember early in my sales career, we would talk about like proving the ROI of your billboard. And I feel like that's still true. But we can fight about it off camera. It's fine. But being able to have that consistency of messaging and actually doing on-site personalization based on Klaviyo segment
Yeah.
membership. So knowing that you are a champion who has bought jeans, and when you hit the website, being able to actually show you men's jeans and saying, welcome back. Right? That is the kind of thing that, to the point of how brands are talking to you, is so important for personalization. And that's something that the CDP with Klaviyo unlocks is the ability to actually do on-site
Yep.
personalization based on what Klaviyo knows about those shoppers. Again, if you're fudging a loyalty program with that welcome back, or we've missed you, or whether it's about you have a hero product and you're thinking about how do I show the complementary products when you come to the website and you've already bought the hero product that you don't necessarily need a second one of.
How do integrations play into the CDP, right? If I have, Postpilot, or I've got, my Google audiences, or I've got, like any of the assortment of things. It's one of the reasons why I love Klaviyo, by the way, is just the ability that almost everybody integrates into the platform in some capacity. But how do the integrations play into the CDP data?
So to some extent, they do and they don't, right? In that they don't, in that integrations are part of our core platform. We're not here like gating off your ability to bring data in. It's such a fundamental part of that richness of data. And to that, it's the more integrations you have, the more you're able to personalize across those other channels, and the richer your data set that you're able to analyze is. So a feature that I didn't show you is our funnels, right? And being able to actually build funnels right within Klaviyo that you can use integrated data sources to see. I'm going to share my screen
Yeah, let's
and
do it.
actually show
Share
you
it. Share
funnels.
it.
We're going back. Oh, the pressure. The pressure's on. I need Jeopardy hold music. Here it is. So funnel analysis. Let's see if we can, if we've got an example. This is always risky. I didn't prep it. This is a good example, but there's no data coming in. But if you were using someone who, or a provider who gave you that return data, right, we'd actually be able to build a funnel to see, hey, from purchase to refund, what does that look like? And we can actually add Klaviyo segments to say, oh, my SMS subscribed loyals and champions, how are they refunding their orders? Again, this is a great example of why those integrations are so important because we don't have that data in our demo account, so we don't have that visibility, right? But being able to see that level of depth within funnels to also do things like actually see which of your paid lead sources are leading to conversions. In this example, where we're able to see, hey, my profiles whose source is Google Ads, like, wow, you really should keep investing in Google Ads. This is a crazy conversion rate. Of course,
Right.
demo data
Or
is
you
so forgive
shouldn't
us.
invest because, like 5 out of 10 people return the product, right? Is
Right.
that, and so,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
So you can start drilling down into that level of depth by having all of it in one place.
So cool. So cool. It's just a lot to talk about with this. I mean, we could go on for a couple of hours, like quite honestly. Maybe we should do that. Let's just stay on here for a couple hours and just like nerd out.
Sorry,
But
everyone. You dialed in. You're stuck now. The pause button, we also disabled it.
yeah, but what we like to tell people is, we've got a jump start that we've worked with Klaviyo to put together in terms of the best practices of creating the segments, the flows, like all the pieces out of the gate with that you need to get up and running and get started, right? And I think that to me is the first step, right? How are you going to get started with this and kind of just begin the journey? Because where you're at on day one, like, is not where you're going to be at on day 365 with this, right? You're going to learn, you're going to evolve, you're going to get better by actively engaging with this data and these reports. It's going to help you become better marketers. It's going to help you become more exact with folks. And I think it's definitely the next step for folks within their Klaviyo within their Klaviyo accounts.
I've got nothing to add. That was perfect. I couldn't agree more. And I'm here
Uh,
because I really think you guys are nailing it, right? I think
yeah.
that the Groove team is really, really strong at understanding those strategic goals of their clients and being able to drive those by getting the most out of their data. Like, I think you guys are on the money for it. So I couldn't agree. You guys make it a little less intimidating on starting the journey and knowing you're in expert hands.
Well, thank you for the kind words. So, if you're interested in learning more about the CDP, you can talk to your Klaviyo account manager, or if there's something you want thoughts and ideas on, happy to reach out to us. We have a landing page that's going to be attached to this episode of the podcast that talks all about our CDP Jumpstart program. We think that this can help marketers of all sizes grow. And, I think there's always things to be learned. I've been doing commerce for over 20 years at this point, and it's like every day I'm still learning something new and evolving. To me, that's what makes this really fun for an industry. I mean, I'm fine talking about abandoned cart emails and flows and like all the things, but this is actually really where you start to move. This is how you start to build momentum and start to evolve and become and kind of go, move into that next stage of a marketing operation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Plus, you get to start talking about using big data as a marketer and like nothing sexier, right? How cool does that sound at the
Yeah.
dinner table? So,
Big data and AI, the
boom.
two sexy words that we're talking about
Yeah.
these
What
days.
and like all those again is such a good example of they're really sexy, they sound really intimidating, but actually they're what help marketers hit their goals. Like let's use them and to do our jobs better and actually have to do less hard manual work.
So, Gina, if people want to connect with you, can they find you on LinkedIn or other places?
Imagine if I just said no. I don't exist on LinkedIn, but yes. I
Awesome.
am on LinkedIn. Please find me, connect. My Klaviyo email is also not complicated. It's first name, last name at klaviyo.com. So please reach out. Would love your feedback as well.
How
And
about MySpace? Are
hopefully,
you on MySpace?
oh, wow. You know, I forgot my password years ago. I tried to access it because I was like, God, there must be some great photos on there. Also, who are my top eight? How will I ever know? I lost my password. It's gone forever. So,
We could
MySpace, I won't
recreate
answer.
Klaviyo with your top 8 metrics for for the CDP, or recreate
Uh,
MySpace. So, for everyone listening today, please check us out on YouTube. There's been some great visuals with this. If you have any more questions about CDP, don't hesitate to reach out to us here at Groove. We love all the feedback, and if you think you'd be a great guest on the show, don't hesitate to reach out as well. Gina, I just want to thank you for your time today, your insights. We've got to do this again. I'd really love in the new year that we have, maybe later in the year, we could do a full advanced deep dive like into advanced CDP for all the data nerds out there to get into. I know you would love that. I know it.
exactly. You see it in my face. I'm all in. I will say, if we're doing it in person, I'm not coming to Baltimore after June. I know what your summers are like. So keep that in mind.
But we have crabs, and
It's true.
an Old Bay, and
They
all
sell
the
that up
things.
north. You know they sell that in other places
Oh,
other than
really?
Baltimore, right?
I didn't know that. I thought that was Baltimore only.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Ethan. This is a
Thank you.
blast. This is great. Nothing like talking about CDP for an afternoon. I'm here for it. So it's a pleasure.
And to all our listeners, thank you for sticking in, and we'll see you on our next episode. Thank you.